They don't deserve another 4 years.
Welcome to The Savage Truth with Cicely Davis. I am your host, Cicely Davis.
Welcome back to The Savage Truth, everyone. I am your hostess with the American mostest, Cicely Davis. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Welcome. I welcome you. Come on back next time. Tell somebody, bring somebody back with you. For all of you who return every week, you know, I refer to you as my savage ride or dies. Thank you so very much. I say the same thing and I mean it. I'm genuine when I say it. Could not do it, would not do it without you. Thank you so very much. I want to take a little time also to just send a little bit of a shout out and appreciation to the David Horowitz Freedom Center for being such an amazing host. I want to send a shout out to my producer out there, TS. I'm just going to give the initials, but just want to say that I really appreciate you and what you're doing and keeping Rick and I in line and putting out such an amazing, amazing content. And thank you, Rick. You can say something. You're welcome. Thank you, Rick, for being here, showing up every week, having dedication and being truly interested and lending your expertise to the editing. So to all of you and Rick and TS and everybody else, just ask that you would do what I ask every week to please like, share, subscribe, and leave a positive review. Please keep it positive on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as we get into this week. Now, when I was a little kid, Rick, I would play outside all day, right? And I used to jump rope, okay? And we always had little tunes that we would sing. And one of them was went a little something like this. Big Mac, filet of fish, quarter pounder French fries, icy Coke, milkshake, sundaes, and apple pie. I'm going to say it again. Big Mac, filet of fish, quarter pounder French fries, icy Coke, milkshake, sundaes, and apple pie. Okay. What am I talking about? McDonald's, of course, an American icon restaurant, and the Big Don. I'm calling him the McDonald Trump made an appearance. His recent appearance in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's in that county has got the Democrats all up here. They're all hot and bothered under the collar. They're all reacting. They're panicked. And we're going to talk about why they're all panicked. But there's something we want to really talk about why they're panicked, what happened with them, and to talk about the polling that's going on in the Kamala Harris campaign. Because considering their reaction and the way the journalists, the Democrat journalists are reacting, it's almost as if it's over, right? Like they won't even make it to November. But I just want to say that Donald Trump's recent appearance at McDonald's, Pennsylvania, just once again underscored his unique connection with the American people, okay? Particularly with working class voters who form the core of his support base, right? Those people that Hillary Clinton referred to as deplorables, clearly they are not. Right? But we're talking about the working class. We're talking about people who punch clocks and go to work every day. That's his core base. Stopping by the fast food restaurant, McDonald's, of course, is what I'm referring to. Trump demonstrated a kind of relatability that resonates with millions upon millions of Americans who, of course, here's hoping to be the electorate to put him in office come next January. He knows. Donald Trump knows and his team knows that many people view McDonald's as a place to go for a quick, affordable meal. And his casual visit signaled that despite his wealth, he understands their daily lives, what they go through, his ability to identify with blue collar workers and ordinary citizens, everyday citizens. I don't want to call anybody ordinary, but I'm going to say everyday people, working class people like me, has been a cornerstone of his political strategy. It's been driving his continued popularity. Now, in the polls, Trump's numbers have been steadily rising, reinforcing his status as a formidable candidate in the Republican field and a potential contender for the presidency once again. Now, I say that, but we all know it's basically over. Now, again, we're not pumping our fists. We're not claiming win until we hit that 270 plus, right? So don't say red wave. I'm going to say it every week. Don't say that. Get out and vote. Bring as many people with you. But we have to recognize that in spite of the effort that the Kamala Harris campaign and the Walz campaign are putting out, and looking pretty grim for them, Donald Trump is doing spectacular. And literally everything this man touches right now, he simply can't go wrong. Everything he's doing is success. And I have to send a lot of propers and a lot of kudos to his team. He has a real team this time around. It's like he almost learned from his last campaign. He's got some real serious campaign people who really are being very thoughtful about his appearances. But I also think that they're really just allowing Donald Trump to be Donald Trump. His grassroots support remains solid, and he has consistently outpaced rivals, reflecting the belief many Americans have that he can steer the country back to economic stability and global prominence. I thoroughly believe that. Matter of fact, I know that many other people know that. Why? Because he did it and he did it for 4 years when he served the first time. This image is bolstered by his public interactions, like the one at McDonald's, where he engages in settings familiar to everyday people, making him seem approachable and authentic. Not just seem, he actually is, okay? He is approachable. He is absolutely authentic. He is a genuine candidate, and it's something that really shines about him. These appearances help maintain his narrative as a man of the people. Now, in contrast, because what do I talk about all the time, people? What do I talk about, savages? Contrasts and comparisons. In contrast, Vice President Kamala Harris has struggled to maintain her appeal with the general public, and her polling numbers have reflected this downward trend. Now, while Harris was initially seen as a fresh, historic figure in American politics, kind of shoved down everybody's throats, her tenure has been marred by difficulties in effectively communicating her accomplishments and policies to the broader electorate. What accomplishments has she had? I mean, I just challenge anybody out there to just name one. Okay. As Trump enjoys the limelight in moments like this in Pennsylvania and his appearance there, Harris has been perceived as disconnected from the issues that most concern Americans. We talked about this, particularly inflation, crime, and immigration, the top 3 issues that the electorate will be voting on come November, if you haven't voted already, and I hope you have. Okay. The political divide between Trump and Harris is significant in that it reflects a broader national sentiment. Many feel that Trump, despite his controversial nature, and that in itself can be debated. I don't find the man controversial at all, but some people do, embodies the concerns of average Americans, particularly in economic matters. On the other hand, Harris is often seen as part of an administration that has been unable to adequately address the rising cost of living, a perception that has contributed to her sinking numbers. Now, bringing Howdy Doody along out of Minnesota has not helped her, okay? You got Elmer Fudd with you. He can't shoot a gun, okay? He's got these horrendous policies that we're suffering from here in Minnesota. She picked the absolute worst candidate. So you have also going on in all this contrast and comparison, Donald Trump's team versus the Kamala Walz team. And there are some vast, vast contrasts, right? Trump's ability to connect emotionally with voters. That's what's important, people. How he connects emotionally with voters, whether through symbolic gestures like enjoying fast food or through his assertive rhetoric, provides a stark contrast to Harris's more measured, scripted, and institutional approach. Very cold. It's not approachable. It's always scripted. You don't really get a sense of who she is. And actually, I would say, you know what? We do get a sense of who she is. There's nothingness there. That's why she has to write her words. Moreover, Trump's appearance in Pennsylvania carries additional weight because of the state's importance as a swing state. Now, we all know that without Pennsylvania, Trump doesn't win. Without Pennsylvania, Kamala doesn't win, right? So it's a pivotal state in this election. It always has been. It's a state that both Democrats and Republicans know will be crucial in the next presidential election. By making highly visible stops like at McDonald's, like Trump just did, it's a reminder to Pennsylvanians that he hasn't forgotten about them, a sentiment that resonates deeply in key battleground areas. His campaign has strategically capitalized on such moments, drawing attention to his connection with regular voters while underscoring the perceived failings of the Biden-Harris administration. Trump's brand of populism it's highlighted by the fast food appearances, contrasts with Harris's struggles to gain any traction whatsoever. Harris's inability to create a strong connection with the electorate has opened a path for Trump to position himself as the candidate who understands the concerns of everyday people like me. And that's why I love him so. It's not just a New York thing. I just feel like he's always literally talking to me. I find him funny. I find him witty. I find him engaging. And I'm always just concerned on what he's going to do and or say next. And I know I'm not alone. While Harris has focused on policies and governance, Trump has focused on visibility and connecting with voters on a personal level, an approach that has clearly worked for him before and seems to be working again. This is what he does. This is who he is, right? Trump has not changed. This is always who he has been. I know that personally as a New Yorker. We got to see that when he ran for the first campaign and through his presidency, and people are getting a reminder of that again. It's actually what gets Democrats so upset because they try with such effort to connect with the people, but because they just simply are so tone deaf and disconnected, they have to fake it. Donald Trump is coming from a very genuine place. Furthermore, Trump's ability to appeal across party lines, particularly to moderate Democrats and to independents, cannot be ignored. His McDonald's appearance isn't just about grabbing a burger. It's not just about serving fries. It's about showing up where regular Americans are, in contrast to Harris, whose appearance often seemed more polished and scripted, like I said. This difference in style reflects a deeper difference in how the two politicians are perceived by the public. Trump is seen as more in tune with the day-to-day concerns of American families. As the Biden administration faces mounting challenges from inflation to border control issues, Harris's role as vice president has been put under increasing scrutiny. With each passing poll, she continues to lose ground, not only with Republicans, but also with independents and even some Democrats. Her approval ratings have lagged. They're tanked. They're at the bottom, okay? Leading many to question whether she can effectively carry the Democrat banner if Biden decides not to run again. No, as Biden has decided to not run. Now, we all know she does not have what it takes, not only to be president, she's not even a good vice president, right? No one in this administration currently or what they're trying to put forward in the future is good, right? Complete ineptitude across the board. Trump's rising numbers, however, are bolstered by simple acts like grabbing a McDonald's meal, serving fries to the public, only further deepen her challenge. Now, in the world of optics and messaging, Trump's McDonald's visit was a clear win. He was McWinning. It's not only played to his strengths, but also highlighted Harris's weaknesses. While Harris struggles to find a message that sticks, Trump is using these moments to solidify his standing with the American electorate. He continues to dominate, which is what he does. He dominates media coverage, not just with his speeches or his rallies, but with small symbolic actions that remind his supporters that they can trust him. Ultimately, Donald Trump's success in Pennsylvania and his rising poll numbers reveal a key political reality. That connection to the electorate matters more than policy specifics. That's what's important. That's the message that was gained. This is why you had such a colossal meltdown on the left through politicians and the elites and the media altogether. Now, while Kamala Harris has been bogged down by political maneuvering and a complex media environment, Trump has continued to leverage simple, effective methods to maintain his popularity. His McDonald's appearance is just the latest example of how he consistently turns everyday moments into powerful political statements. It's further bolstering and boosting his appeal as Harris's numbers continue to plummet in the tank, rock bottom. The media's reaction to Donald Trump's appearance at McDonald's. Let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Let's talk about that meltdown. The Democrat media had a colossal meltdown, as I said, over Donald Trump's McDonald's appearance in Pennsylvania, a moment that should have been a simple, lighthearted stop on the campaign trail. Instead, left-leaning outlets exploded with criticism, of course, scrambling to downplay the significance of Trump's interaction with everyday Americans. They know all too well that Trump's ability to connect with working class voters is a threat to their political agenda. And his fast food stop was yet another reminder of how he resonates with that base. Now, rather than admitting the truth, and you know they won't because they don't even know truth, let alone can define it, right? That Trump still has a magnetic pull with the middle class America. They focus on ridiculing the moment, accusing him of being out of touch, tired, right? Gimmicky, while completely missing the point. They completely miss the point, as they usually do. For the liberal media, Trump's casual outing at McDonald's became a prime target for disdain, as everything else is, right? Where's the joy? That's what I'm saying. Where's the joy? I'm looking for the joy. Haven't seen the joy yet. From mocking his choice of food to framing the event as a cheap publicity stunt, the left-wing commentators went into full damage control mode. Now, what they fail to understand is that these kinds of appearances are precisely why Trump continues to gain traction in the polls. While Democrats like Kamala Harris struggle to connect with voters, Trump's authenticity in such moments only makes him more relatable, more likable, more likely to become the 47th president of the United States of America. Okay. The media's frantic efforts to undercut him only expose their desperation and his popularity soared even higher, right? So literally, he gets more popular. The more time he does this, the more adversely they react, right? They're just simply increasing his appeal and his popularity. Instead of acknowledging that Trump's appeal to blue-collar America is real and try to learn from his playbook, the mainstream media has tried to paint him as a billionaire pretending to care about regular people. I think AOC made some comments. He's not trying to understand or empathize with us. He's making fun of us, as if she is working class now. Ridiculous. But those criticisms fall flat with voters who see Trump's actions, like visiting a McDonald's, as sincere. It's a sincere gesture on his part. This is a man who doesn't shy away from everyday American life. And let me tell you, again, as a New Yorker, I can tell you this has always been his way. Chauffeurs and working class people have always talked about the kindness and the charitable ways of Donald Trump in the 80s when he wasn't even thinking about running for president. Okay, I know that. Again, you got to take my word from it. I'm a New Yorker. I've been hearing this for decades. And his supporters recognize that. It's not an act. It's really, truly who Donald Trump is. Meanwhile, the media's elite bubble further isolates them from the realities of what working Americans face daily, a gap that Trump masterfully exploits to his advantage. The Democrat media's attempt to downplay Trump's rising numbers in the poll in light of such moments has only backfired, just like the Brett Baier interview, just like the raunchy podcast, just like anything Kamala thinks of or attempts, anything Howdy Doody Elmer Fudd tries to do, okay, it's all just going to simply backfire because they're not genuine, because they're not real, because they're not authentic, because they really truly have real true disdain, not joy for the American people and the American experience. In their rush to discredit him, meaning the media, they've ignored the fact that Kamala Harris's approval ratings continue to plummet, and they're helping that out, making their attacks on Trump seem increasingly desperate. Rather than focus on Harris's failings as vice president and try to help the girl out or addressing the real issues driving voters away from the Democratic Party, they choose to fixate on Trump's every move. They're obsessed with this man. And I don't blame them, but, get on the right side of this thing, as if this McDonald stop was somehow a catastrophic event for the nation. And it wasn't. It was actually be honest with you, it was quite joyful. Okay. From a Republican perspective, it's clear the media's meltdown is rooted in fear. They know that Trump's appeal is growing, and his Pennsylvania stop is just one more sign that he's connecting with voters in ways the current administration cannot, will not ever. The liberal media is trying to downplay his impact because they realize the momentum is on Trump's side. It's on the J.D. Vance side. It's on America's side. He has consistently drawn massive crowds and maintained a loyal following, even in states that are critical for Democrats in upcoming elections. The media's attempt to paint him as irrelevant are not fooling anyone. One of the most striking aspects of the media's reaction was their attempt to minimize the significance of Trump's populist message. They focused on trivial matters, right? Like what Trump ordered at McDonald's rather than, the broader implications of his outreach to regular voters. This is a common tactic, right? By focusing on the superficial, they avoid having to engage with the real substance of Trump's campaign. What they fail to understand is that his authenticity resonates deeply with voters who feel left behind, left by the establishment. The more they attack Trump, the more they fuel the narrative that he's the one standing up against the elites. It's telling to me and to many others that the media has gone to such lengths to diminish Trump's presence, especially when compared to Kamala Harris's floundering attempts to gain public support, right? Harris's continued struggles to resonate with voters, seen in her collapsing poll numbers, for example, are largely ignored or brushed under the rug. They don't report that. They seem to turn the other cheek, or they just turn the blind eye to it. They don't see it, and they certainly won't report it. Instead, the media fixates on Trump's actions, trying to turn his every move into a controversy. It's not working. But voters see through this. I see through this. You see through this. You're smart people. We see that media apparatus that is more concerned with tearing Trump down than with addressing the real concerns of us, the American people. And the Democrat media's hysteria over Trump's McDonald's appearance speaks volumes about their priorities. Now, while they should be addressing inflation, should be addressing crime and the border crisis, issues that matter to everyday Americans, again, the top 3 issues that we're all going to be voting about, they are obsessing over what Trump ordered for lunch, what he had for lunch that day, right? How many times he yawned or if he feels tired, right? I mean, the kind of disconnect is exactly why Trump continued to gain support. And it's why Harris, who is part of an administration seen as out of touch, completely tone deaf, continues to lose ground. And that's how it's going to be for her. She's going to continue to tread water. She is falling further and further behind. She's got a lot of catching up to do, and I just don't see it, right? The media's bias is becoming more transparent, and it's only helping Trump solidify his position as the candidate who actually understands the concerns of the American people. Moreover, the liberal media constant attacks on Trump only serve to rally his base even more. And every time they go after him, it reinforces the belief among his supporters that he's the outsider fighting against a corrupt and biased establishment. These voters see Trump's McDonald's visit as proof that he's one of them. He's one of us. He's one of us. He's one of us. And the media's attempt to belittle it only make them dig in deeper. In contrast, Harris's carefully staged events and disconnection from working class Americans are glaring, right? She makes her faces. She has this disdain, this true contempt over her face. It further alienates voters who are looking for someone who genuinely understands their struggle. I want a president for the next 4 years who I feel like I can speak to, right? And I don't have to be a billionaire. I just can aspire to it. He doesn't fake it, but he truly cares about what I care about. And he just simply wants my life to be better. That's who I want to vote in. In the end, the Democrat media's meltdown over Trump's McDonald's appearance is just another chapter in their long history of undermining him. Instead of acknowledging the deep and lasting connection he has with the American people, they choose to sneer and mock and make fun. But Trump's poll numbers continue to rise, so keep at it. And Kamala Harris's collapse continues to unfold. The media can spin it however they choose, however they want. But voters are making their choice. They're making it boldly heard, boldly known. And they're clearly choosing Trump's authenticity over the Democrats' establishment disconnection. Now, to further drive that point home, after McDonald's, what does he do? He goes to a Pittsburgh Steelers games, and you know your girl loves football, okay? Trump received a resounding, enthusiastic welcome at the Pittsburgh Steelers game, much to the dismay of the liberal media. So after he supersized and eats fries, he goes to the game. He gets a standing ovation. You hear the cheers and jeers in the USA. He's standing in the box. He's waving at the people. They literally stand up and face him. He shuts it down. This is my president, number 47, you guys. This is so great. But the media were completely at dismay, right? Dismay of the media, who were probably clutching their pearls at the sight of so many Americans cheering for the man they love to hate. You could particularly hear the collective groan from CNN headquarters as the camera showed Steelers fans standing on their feet, roaring with approval. The scene was a nightmare for the left. Ordinary Americans in their natural habitat, openly supporting Trump without shame. It's almost as if they couldn't believe that Trump hasn't been canceled yet. Sorry, MSNBC, but it looks like Americans still love Donald Trump, and they always will. The funniest part, though, has to be how quickly the media tried to downplay the crowd's reactions with headlines like this. Mixed reactions to Trump at Steelers game, as if the roar of the applause was some kind of echo chamber. I mean, sure, maybe one guy in the nosebleed section was, scowling, but it's probably because he couldn't see. But let's be real. Trump walked into that stadium and got the kind of reception that politicians could only dream of. Now, while Kamala Harris struggles to get a few dozen half-hearted claps at her events, Trump was greeted like a rock star by a sea of fans who couldn't care less about the media's never-ending outrage machine. The liberal elites, they won't admit it. They can't admit it. They'll continue to pretend that the cheers were just a fluke, that America isn't really rallying behind Donald Trump. Keep telling yourself that, guys. It makes November 2024, that much more entertaining when you're still trying to figure out how the mixed reactions turned into a landslide of support. Meanwhile, Trump is out there enjoying his fries, football, and freedom. And the left is picking up the pieces of their shattered narrative. Now, if you haven't heard, I'm going to tell you. And look out for it, because I'm watching for the date. Apparently, Donald Trump is going to be appearing on Joe Rogan's show. The upcoming appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast will be a massive boost to his campaign and a strategic win, not just for him, but for Republicans that like J.D. Vance as well. Rogan's podcast is one of the largest platforms. No, I'm sorry. It's one of the largest platforms in the world. It's the biggest in America, reaching millions of listeners who aren't glued to mainstream media, many of whom are independent or disillusioned voters. That's why this move is so very important. Trump's candid, unfiltered style is a perfect fit for the format, allowing him to speak directly to Americans in a way that bypassed the usual media spin. His ability to connect with everyday people will shine in an environment where long-form discussions replace sound bites, giving him a unique chance to outline his vision while reaffirming his populist credentials. Now, for J.D. Vance, this is a golden opportunity. Vance, who rose to prominence with his populist message in Ohio, shares many of Trump's concerns about the economy, shares many of his concerns about the working class, and pushing back against the establishment. Now, a Joe Rogan appearance allows Trump to amplify these messages to Rogan's massive audience, indirectly boosting Vance's platform as well. Okay, it's a win-win situation for them both. It's a chance to rally voters around the kind of pro-America, pro-worker policies that both Trump and Vance advocate, strengthening the Republican base ahead of key elections in a world where legacy media continues to lose trust. Being on Rogan's podcast is a game changer. It's a game changer for reaching millions who feel unheard by traditional outlets. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, would be a disaster on Rogan's podcast. If she couldn't handle Bret Baier, she certainly can't go on Joe Rogan's show. Joe Rogan will be another version of Bret Baier. He will challenge her. He will ask smart and follow-up questions. He will demand strong answers. And this is really important, too, to note. Joe Rogan's show isn't just 20, 25 minutes. You have at least an hour. You can't just do 20 minutes on Joe Rogan's show. You have a full hour at least, more likely like 90 minutes, okay? Kamala cannot sit unscripted for 60 seconds, let alone 60 minutes or 90. And that's exactly why she should avoid this. Rogan's audience values authenticity and straight talk, two things Harris has consistently struggled with, two things she does not have. Her tendency to rely on scripted talking points and vague rhetoric would likely fall flat in the no-nonsense, controversial environment Rogan tends to cultivate. Not to mention Joe Rogan, after the show, will just tell everybody, she had a script. I mean, he will just literally call her out about it. Plus, her performance on other platforms has shown that she has difficulty connecting with voters on a personal level. A Rogan appearance would only highlight her detachment from the issues that matter most to Americans, leaving her exposed and out of her depth. Now, for Trump, this is a chance for him to win over new voters. For Harris, it would be a political minefield. Now, I just want to end and say this, savages. If Donald Trump wins the election in November, and it's definitely been trending in that fashion, being more likely than not, his appearance in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, will serve as an overall reason for his win. I'm not specifically saying that the McDonald's appearance itself is the reason, but more a depiction towards the trajectory of this race. On paper, this was just another photo op, right? I grant you that. It's been done many times over and over and over again. A well-known politician, and especially presidents and presidential candidates, they show up. This is what they do. They show up at various businesses and towns of their constituents to meet and greet them and connect with the locals, connect with workers and the people of that specific community. Donald Trump showed up, met and greeted with the owner and the employees. He learned how to cook fries and served some customers, spoke to reporters, and then he left. Doesn't sound like something that the Democrats should have had this full-on meltdown over, but they did. I think it's important to understand why they are so upset about this particular appearance. And it's because of a lie. The lie, the Kamala Harris team, and that she lied about her working at McDonald's, because Kamala Harris has repeatedly claimed that she worked there in the 1980s. But the company has no record of her employment, and Kamala has been unwilling to provide any evidence. Savage truth is she's unable to provide any evidence, because if she had, believe me, she would have loved to show it just to be able to flash it around and stick it to Donald Trump. Now, none of Kamala Harris's memoirs mention her employment with McDonald's. The only time she actually mentioned it is decades later at a political rally in 2019. This is per the Free Beacon. Now, the Free Beacon said they also obtained a copy of Harris's October 1987 job application for a law clerk position in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. On that form, Harris was in law school at the time, listed several jobs in a section that asked her to list every job she's had in the last 10 years. And McDonald's wasn't one of them. McDonald's was mysteriously absent. Donald Trump received all kinds of cheers and was well received by the staff and had a genuine interest in the owner and the workers. Naturally, people were going to be ecstatic to have Donald Trump serve them fries in the drive-thru. But the overall experience was more than positive. It was more than successful. It was a testament and a reflection of contrast between the two presidential candidates. One is larger than life. He's welcoming, has a genuine interest in the American people. He draws crowds because he's genuine. He's funny, he's witty, and puts their interests first without panderous, empty gestures. That's Donald Trump, of course. That's who he is. He will win because he not only has a track record, but opens himself up to the American public. And then there's Kamala Harris. Panderous, changes her accent depending on who she's speaking to. Other times she's angry, contemptuous, bitter, and dismissive. Donald Trump will restore freedom, jobs, the economy, and close the border. Kamala will change nothing. And she said so on The View, after all, meaning nothing will absolutely change. In fact, it will only get worse. One serving up football, fries, and freedom, while the other fouls and falsehoods. When it comes to the next president of the United States, you know what I say? Supersize me. Big Mac Filet-O-Fish, quarter pounder French fries, icy Coke, milkshake, sundaes, and apple pie. Now, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And remember, as always, be bold, be strong, be faithful, be true. Till next time, I'm Cicely.
The Savage Truth with Cicely Davis is a production of Front Page Magazine and the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Reproduction of this podcast without express written consent is prohibited.